Hi there! Today will be my longest video till date, and it will be one where we decode and decipher the universe of John Wick and recap the amazing 4 films we have had till date. Do note that there will be heavy spoilers ahead, so if you haven't seen these movies, please feel free to skip this video for now. But if you don't care, here we go. First, let's recap what has happened in the first 4 films. If you wish to skip this, go to the markers in the description to explore the secrets of John Wick Universe and the universe expansion plans and possibilities. John Wick 1 starts with John mourning the death of his wife. Not much is told about how she dies, but we can safely assume it was due to a long sickness, as she planned for her death by sending John a puppy companion for the after-death period. At this point, the puppy enters his life and John feels like he needs to be something for this baby his wife has left him as the parting memory. Nothing can fill her void, but this dog helped for sure. Next, we see 3 Russian brats who meet John at a gas station and offer to buy John's '79 Mustang. John obviously refused, and these guys just couldn't take no for an answer. They go to John's house later that night and pin him down while killing his puppy right in front of his eyes. It is a painful sequence to watch, and watching John holding that puppy is the only time this series made you cry and basically justified all the mayhem that ensued. Next, we are told that one of these brats is a son of an influential Russian mafia king, Vigo, who also holds a seat at the high table.
That's a nice jacket. Thanks. Yeah.
Also, it is clearly established that John is actually their former employee, though not many have heard of him by his name, as he used to be called as the Boogeyman or Baba Yaga. This also explains why Yosef, the brat's son, even though knew that name, did not know who he messed with. Now remember, this was the first film of this universe, and the team tried to make sure not to introduce too much of the universe while giving just enough to keep their option open for sequels, just in case the first film didn't work. So while we see conversations of the High Table and the Continental, we don't get to know a lot about the universe in John Wick 1. This film just focuses on the revenge of John Wick and how he had to go through maybe 200 dead bodies to kill this one brat. Anyway, without getting too far ahead of us, we now find John opening his secret stash of guns and underworld coins, which we will speak about later in more detail. He reaches the Continental and meets its manager, Winston, who immediately is established as one of his most trusted allies, and also, as per some conspiracy theorists, his probable biological father. Though even if so, John for sure does not know this. Winston helps him with the location of Yosef, and what happens next is the first of many John Wick mayhems that ensue. Yosef, however, gets away and John is once again left with no trail. But then Vigo decides to enter the game and sets up a 4 million bounty on John's head. Here for the first time we see the inner workings of the High Table and how an open bounty is pushed on. Vigo also gives the first bounty offer to one of John's old friends, Marcus, who while happily accepts it, has something else on his mind. John is attacked that night and ends up finding out where is Vigo's secret cache held up, and he goes and burns down the entire church. By the finale of this action sequence, with help from Marcus, he gets hold of Vigo and makes him do the unthinkable, reveal his son's location. John reaches the heavily guarded building and basically just kills everyone alongside Yosef. Vigo gets the news and obviously wants some form of revenge and ends up killing Marcus. That sets up the film's finale with John yet again mourning a close friend's death and setting up to kill Vigo, which obviously he does. The film ends with a bleeding John Wick entering a vet facility, bandaging himself up and picking up a pitbull puppy from the facility. John Wick 2 starts right from the day after this, with John looking for his stolen Mustang and finding it with Vigo's brother. He goes in and gets it in typical John Wick style mayhem, but comes back with his car. John is then approached by Santiano Di Antonio, an Italian Camorra crime lord, who asks him to perform an assassination on his sister Gianna. It is also revealed that Camorra have a seat at the High Table and that there are 12 members at this table. Santino reminds him of the blood oath that allowed John to complete Vigo's impossible task and set him free to marry Helen. John initially refuses but is forced to accept when Santino burns his house down and thereby reminded by Winston to complete the blood oath before anything else. At this point, we are introduced to John's tailor, one who would make him bulletproof suits. John obviously completes the task and kills Gianna, but is betrayed by Santino, who not only sends his people to kill John, but then also puts an open 7 million bounty on his head through the High Table network. John becomes a target for basically every assassin in the world who are obligated to kill him in order to collect the bounty. John somehow escapes these assassins and finds refuge with a new character, the Bowery King. He seems little impressed with John, but decides to help him nonetheless, if it means a dead Santino. John takes off and attacks Santino at his own gala event. Santino manages to escape and ends up at the Continental, the one place where John cannot touch him. But John, having lost his house, no longer gives a shit about rules and shoots Santino right in the middle of Continental's restaurant. This sets up the next two films, with John now being declared excommunicado and an open bounty of 14 million on his head. Winston once again comes to his aid and gives him an hour to run before he punches in the order. Followed up with John Wick 3 Parabellum. With a 14 million bounty on his head, John must fend off attacks from every assassin in the world, while trying to reach out to his old friend and a home where he grew up, Raskaroma's head, the director. The director had an old oath pending with John and hence agreed to help him to escape to Casablanca. There John meets Sofia and delivers an oath marker, which means Sofia has to take him to Berada, the man who mints the coins used by the entire High Table network. John asks to be pointed to the Elder, the only person above the members of the High Table. Berada points him to the desert but asks for one of Sofia's dogs in return, and when Sofia refuses, he shoots one of them. Thankfully, he was wearing a bulletproof vest, but this is John Wick, and you do not shoot a man or a woman's dog in John Wick. All hell breaks loose, and John and Sofia kill through the entire Berada army to run away. John leaves for the desert looking for the Elder, and lo and behold, we meet the Elder, who asks John to pledge loyalty to the High Table by sacrificing his finger and the manager, Winston. John leaves without his finger and the wedding ring to the Continental, where a new mayhem has ensued while he was gone.
Sir, there is an adjudicator here to see you.
The High Table had sent an adjudicator to take back control and punish those who helped John. She first asks Winston to quit the Continental, thereon asks Bowery King to relinquish his throne and gives him 7 cuts to make up for the 7 bullets he gave John. And lastly, cuts through the hand of the director of Raskaroma. John and Winston know what is to happen, and they collectively decide to stand against the High Table. The Continental is no longer sacred grounds, and the High Table sends its army and a Japanese assassin Zero with his team to kill John and take control of the Continental. John and Sharon fight and kill everyone that night. In the morning, the adjudicator offers Winston to be reinstated as the head of the Continental, and in return, Winston shoots John 5 times, making him fall off the roof on the streets.
Don't see any other way.
John is picked up by the Bowery King's men, and we now know that the Bowery King has joined forces with John and Winston in their stand against the High Table. That brings us to John Wick 4. John Wick 4 starts with John on his horse in Morocco, finding and killing the Elder and taking his wedding ring back. This obviously is his way of launching his attack on the High Table. Immediately afterwards, we see Winston being fired from his job as the head of the Continental by Marcus Winston, who is a high-ranking official of the High Table. Winston is also declared excommunicado, just like John Wick was at the end of John Wick 2, and now has to run for his life. Additionally, the Continental is destroyed, and this is the first clue to the end of John Wick 4. The hotel was a centerpiece of John Wick films and is now gone. John Wick then goes to Osaka Continental, whose owner is also a friend of John, and helps him to stay hidden. This obviously does not go down well with the High Table, and there is an attack on the hotel, with John's old friend Kane ending up killing the owner of Osaka Continental. John and Akira, who is the owner's daughter, manage to escape, and John reaches Winston, wondering what to do next. Winston gives the idea of asking Marcus Vincent to a duel, which can free him of the High Table's obligation. But there is a catch. John needs to be affiliated to a High Table family to ask for this. He goes back to his roots, the Raskaroma in Berlin, to try and join the syndicate again. After fulfilling a wish of his adoptive sister Katya, John is allowed back into the family, and we see Winston meet Marcus Vincent to make the duel official. Marcus Vincent obviously does not want this duel to take place, and hence puts up the biggest ever bounty on John's head, worth 26 million, applicable only for that night. But John being John, and with the help of Mr. Nobody, whose dog he saved, and Kane, who obviously doesn't like his daughter being threatened by Marcus, helping John reach the venue. At the venue, Kane shoots on behalf of the table, and John, for himself, over 3 rounds of single bullet shots. John does not make the third shot and is badly shot by Kane. At this point, Marcus tries to gloat by taking over the gun from Kane, hoping to put the final bullet in John Wick's head. Does not realize John can still shoot his third shot anytime, given he never took this shot. John takes his shot and kills Marcus Vincent on the spot and frees himself from the clutches of the table while doing so. However, he was badly shot and we see his grave next to his late wife at the end of the film, suggesting that he's dead. Now that we are done with the recap of 4 John Wick films, let us look at some of the finer details of this universe and the mysteries surrounding John Wick. First, the coin. Now the coins in John Wick are a bit of a mystery, simply because how they are used throughout the 4 movies. They are used randomly, without mentioning any value to any item. We know they are minted in Morocco, somewhere close to Elder's location, who clearly wants to stay in control by staying around the most important piece of his empire. Now we need to be aware that these coins are not the only way to transact in the John Wick world, because we have seen the high table dealing in dollars every time they put a bounty on John Wick's head. So then the coin's real value is only in exchange of services within the network, and there must be a way to sell them back to the high table for money. So if that is the case, it is a surprise why would John Wick keep those coins rather than selling them back when he quit. On top of that, we see once the coin being used to buy 2 drinks at the Continental's bar, and another time to get John Wick being operated upon. Not really equal footing, is it? Second, the cleaning squad. The cleaning squad is a team that cleans up after the kills done by the high table and their teams to keep the organization safe from authorities and questions. We see them in John Wick 1 and then in John Wick 3 when we see the underbelly of the Continental, where they are seen bringing in dead bodies for fumigation. They are a clearly labeled job within this universe and expect to see one at each designated hotel of the high table. His suit. John Wick's suit has gone through 2 upgrades during these films, which you have to assume was the norm when he retired. In John Wick 2, we see his suit upgraded to a bulletproof lining which stops the bullets but hurts like hell. And then finally, in John Wick 4, he gets a suit with Kevlar linings which no longer hurt as bad while still keeping him safe. Which is why you see him moving around like holding his jacket in front of his face all the time. But yeah, that's what makes John Wick immune to normal bullets. Armor-piercing bullets in John Wick 4 are a different matter altogether. The high table. This is the centerpiece of the John Wick universe. And by now we know it is basically an amalgamation of the 12 top mafia families in the world who control everything illegal. They don't need to like each other, and they don't. But they work under the same currency and the same set of rules. It is like having the world's 12 biggest bank headquartered in the same building. Their staff move between the banks, they eat in the same cafeterias and restaurants, transact using the building's food coupons, have the same reception. They even use the same washrooms and lifts and have the same landlord, the Elder. The only members of this table that we know of are Kamura and Raskaroma. The likely participants would also include the Yakuza, Japanese, Triad, Chinese, Bratwa, Russian Mafia, Costa Nostra, the Italian Mafia. It would also be safe to assume that there must be one family each from the Arab, India, Africa, US and Mexico here. That would make it 11 and absolutely close to the max number of 12 seats. The Elder. Now dead, the Elder was the supposed head of the high table until he decided to take John Wick's wedding ring. I mean, talk about high horse. Only fair that John Wick came on horses to kill this son of a bitch. However, what is unknown is if he will have successors or this will allow the high table to implode and go for a war between families. That would be some John Wick 5, wouldn't it? John's origin. John was raised by Raskaroma, which is where he became the killer he was. He was then recruited by the Russian Mafia of Vigo, who we see in the first film. He obviously worked there for a long period, post which he quit them by doing an unthinkable assignment that even Vigo did not think it was possible. Time period of the entire 4 films. Now these 4 films tell a story of John Wick from his wife's death to his death in a serialized manner. Given how the activities have happened, it is safe to calculate the total period across the 4 films was within 45 to 60 days at the max. The first and the second films happened within a week, while the third film is a week within itself at max. The last film has the most amount of travel involved, but barring John Wick's recovery from the fall, it still happens within a period of 3 to 4 weeks. Add Wick's recovery time of 2 weeks, we have a 45 to 60 day window between these films. Sequel in the works. The John Wick universe has a list of films and series in the works to further elaborate on this universe. The first to come will be the TV series, titled The Continental, streaming this September. The series is set in the 70s and will surely introduce us to the character of Winston as a youngster while delving deeper into some of the members of the High Table. Next will be Ballerina, a feature film starring Ana de Armas as the Rasca Roma ballerina assassin, whose character was teased with in the third chapter of John Wick. And the most curious one of the list is surely John Wick 5, which is oddly going to answer the biggest question of them all. Is John Wick still alive? If yes, this film has to be him taking on the entire High Table and raining havoc of some magnanimous proportions. There are obviously more possibilities with this franchise, with separate films possible for a host of the characters, from the Brewery King to Kane to Akira and many more we might not even know yet. So that's a recap of the John Wick universe. Let us know what you think about it and if you have any further thoughts of something that I might have missed. This is Highly Recommended, your only spoiler-free movie recommendation channel. Follow us for more.